The call to order the Nantucket Memorial Airport Commission for meeting of Tuesday, June 13th, 2017. The meeting is being both audio and video recorded. Commissioner Planzer is not able to be here tonight, and Commissioner Buscarin is participating by telephone due to his remote location, and that means that all votes will have to be roll call votes. Are there any comments on the agenda?
No.
Hearing none, we will proceed with it. The minutes of May 11th, 2017, are there any additions or corrections?
I move approval.
Thank you. Second. Mr. Buscarin, how do you vote?
Aye.
Ms. Topham?
Aye.
Mr. Gasparo?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. We have two warrants to ratify, May 24th, 2017, and June 7th, 2017. May I have a motion, please, to approve those warrants?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Mr. Buscarin, how do you vote?
Aye.
Ms. Topham?
Aye.
Mr. Gasparo?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. Are there pending in leases and contracts? We have a bunch of them today. Mr. Rafter, would you like to?
Sure. The first is a lease agreement with United Airlines for seasonal service for $15,920 plus landing fees and the $1,500 business fee. As you know, we've been trying to get United to execute an agreement for a number of years, so we have that fully done from their side. After that, we have a license agreement with Athlete Fitness. It's a $1,500 business fee for an exercise classes on Nobody Beach. We also have a license agreement with Sales Seafood with the $1,500 business fee for catered events on Nobody Beach. We have the Jacobs Engineering contract, prices to be determined for on-call services. They submit the proposal as per the task order. Contract with Airport Media Solutions for $4,400 to extend the contract time for the balance of the remaining on the expired contract. Another contract with Stanley Access Technologies for $70,500 for a 3-year contract for automatic door repairs. And a contract with Retrix Aviation was a bid for the switchback aircraft boarding ramp for $77,844. And finally, a contract with the State of New Hampshire Fire Standards and Training for $8,675 for required live burn training, 2 sessions for 6 personnel for the York Department.
Thank you. Are there any comments or questions?
Well, I was thinking $1,500 is not a lot of money. I mean, I'm not suggesting we raise it, but I just was thinking maybe we should look at it for another year. Or how often do they use it? Use it every day for the summer?
I believe they have the ability to if they so choose, yeah.
Okay, I just didn't know.
Oh, well, look, the Sales Seafood is
A whole year.
whole year, every day. They could do it in February if they wanted to.
Well, yes, I see that. I see. But I didn't know. I just thought $1,500, but then on the same vein, I'm hearing from people, well, we're charging too much, we don't need money. So anyhow, I just question that. I'm not going to change it.
We can't because it's
No,
part of our
I'm not going to make, I would never.
rates and charges.
I'll make a note of that for the rates and charges review, though,
Okay.
when that comes up.
Mr. Gasparo.
I'm wondering how much oversight the manager has or discretion to some of the activities versus whether, say hours of operation, is that at your discretion or is that something that should be set
This is for the license holders.
for the licenses, right? For both of them, really.
We normally ask them to propose to us, and then we can establish if we think there's, something that needs to be modified.
But we don't have that already
It's not an established,
Well, it would be probably different for different kinds of activities.
yeah, whether it's a wedding versus some of the, fitness classes and that type of thing.
I guess my concern is how congested that beach is.
And again, I think it goes to the activity. We have the surf school.
Right, which is up
and
above.
We used to have the food trucks, right, but they're there throughout the entire day
Right.
because that's what their business is now. Fitness, we have the bar ballet that does mornings, and I believe it's only a few days a week.
I think mornings are fine. I think my concern would be, in the afternoons, I don't know how much information we have.
There's a gentleman from Fitness here.
Would you stand up at the microphone and identify yourself, please?
Hello, my name is Dan Jacobs. I'm one of the founders of Athlete Fitness. Just a little background information. Athlete Fitness is a new beach workout fitness program, which will be located on Newberry Beach this summer, running from June 19th to about August 19th. Our proposed class schedule as of right now is mornings, a class at 8 a.m. and 9 a.m., and then a class at 4:15 and 5:30. That is what I'll be proposing from Monday through Friday. So I'm open to any questions or concerns you guys may have on those times, how many people, what it entails, and so forth.
How many people are in these classes? What's your maximum?
Our maximum will probably be 15 per class.
Mm-hmm.
And it goes for an hour or so, I'm assuming?
Yep, classes are an hour long.
If I
Mr.
may.
Gasparo?
And how much, I mean, are you going to be taking up doing sprints and like a big area or beach? I'm just wondering about,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, of course. We hope not to. No. Honestly, we're gonna go by tomorrow, and we don't have a designated area, of course. But in terms of space, I'm not thinking any more than 25 yards, just for a sprint. But our area is pretty small, considering.
Well, I guess the concerns that some of us have are that the beach is pretty small this year.
Yep, of course.
And blocking it. My personal reaction is that the hours seem to be reasonable. They're early in the day, early in the morning, and later in the day. Not necessarily late in the day, but later in the day. And my suggestion would be that we try it with the understanding with Mr. Jacobs and his colleagues that if we find it to be a problem, that we will sit down and talk to you and tell you what we don't think you should be doing.
Of course, yep.
And if necessary, legislate that. But I hope we don't have to do that. I hope we can work and do that. Is that acceptable?
I think we're heading for trouble with the afternoon hours. I think the morning's great and fine, but the afternoon hours, there's a lot of folks that are getting out of work and just going to that beach. There's a lot of folks that have set up for the day. That's the only beaches left to drive on. It's really congested. I can't support the afternoon hours. I'd say give it a shot, see how the setup and how much space they do, maybe observe them in their morning. And because what happens if we enter into a lease agreement and then they start selling classes and getting set up, and then they have obligations to customers, it puts you in, I think, a harder spot. As something that's new.
It's a fair question.
I
fair
think
point.
I think it is, I mean, I go down there, it's really congested in July and August at 5 o'clock, 4 o'clock.
What kind of period do you sign people up for? One class or 10 classes, or what's the deal?
Well, there's a couple different options. There's like a 2-week membership where you can go whenever, and a 4-week, or there's one class walk-ins. The other thing is if there's a problem with the 4:15 or the 5:30, we're definitely willing to change those and push those back later if possible. If not, then I guess we won't have the afternoon classes. But these aren't necessarily like if a 5:30 would work or a 6. I guess that's we're also open to that. We just, I mean, honestly, also on our part, like we don't want the beach to be congested, or we don't want to be there to get in anyone's way.
Can I ask why did you pick Nobody Beach as opposed to some other beach?
Honestly. I talk.
Frankly, we're delighted to have people use it and pay us for it, but it has to be within certain parameters.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I contacted the town of Nantucket, Lands Bank, and the airport, and I spoke with this woman named May, and she was just extremely helpful and providing me with information and details about, and the town of Nantucket honestly wasn't really open to like businesses, I guess, just in general. Yeah, so.
Would you be happy if they had a class at 5:30 and maybe another one after that?
My sense would be keep it before noon and see how it goes for the first season. Let them get established. We can see how it goes, and again, maybe I'm just one vote.
Right.
But I just think that, business activity during the prime
Yep.
time of people using the beaches, that's like a prime resource. I'm just not in favor of that. I think
don't
that's
use that beach, but I know that a lot of people like to do their exercising later in the afternoon.
Yeah, that was the other. Also, just because, may I ask do you guys have an idea of when the beach is most congested, hours-wise? Because originally we had a class at like 11 and 12, but I just thought that the beach would just be way too congested during those hours. So that's why we moved those back to the 4:15 and 5:30, but I might not be completely aware of when the beach is the most congested.
I know my family probably goes around 11:30 if they're going to go to that beach in a particular day.
Yeah, I would say the beach hours are typically like 11 to 6 would be my,
I think they're much earlier than that in the afternoon.
even earlier.
Yeah, I think
On those
afternoon,
days.
in the afternoon.
Oh, that people leave, you mean?
Yes.
Yeah, they start leaving. I would say, if you were to say prime time,
4:30
probably is
4:30 to
5,
yeah, 4:30
maybe
to
11 to 4.
Yeah.
So you want to say,
I would not have an objection to their running a
After
class at
6.
5:30 or maybe even after 6.
so we would say
I don't either. I
11.
think that's fine. If you're going to charge them some money to use the beach, you ought to let them use it.
Right.
It's a balance. I could go with before 11 and after 6.
Is the way that we can watch or see what's happening? I mean, and you could tell us if you were
Our
willing to.
operations department can try to monitor, but, yeah, we could certainly,
But
monitor
again,
as best we can.
if you've got people signed up for a couple of weeks at a certain time, and all of a sudden you say, well, wait a minute, the airport said we can't do it because
Well,
it's
but I think
congested.
what I've observed just on the 4th of July weekends when I've been down there with the police, that people start departing in the 4:30 timeframe.
Right.
So I wouldn't have any objection to after 5 or 5:30, but
They stop or start?
They start leaving, they
leaving.
start
Okay,
to depart.
All right.
Yeah.
Even on 4th of July?
yeah, they don't get there, they get there probably, they start coming in around 10, 11,
Right.
and then by 4:30 or so,
Right.
5 o'clock, they're,
How about we say no classes between 11 and 5:30?
That's fine. I support the business and what you, and
Yeah,
everything.
is that agreeable to you all?
Yep.
Okay.
Thank you very
mean,
much.
Is there a motion?
Sure, I'll make the motion, I guess, whatever you said, 11 to 5:30, was it?
I said
No
11.
class.
11 to,
No classes from 11 to 5:30.
no, classes 11 to 5:30. I'll make that motion.
Second.
Any further discussion?
No, I just hope it works out for the young man in his new business.
Right.
Thank you.
Mr. Buscarin, how do you vote?
I vote no.
Ms. Topham?
Aye.
Mr. Gasparo?
Aye.
And chair votes aye. Thank you, Mr. Jacobs. Good luck to you.
Thank you, appreciate
Thank
it.
you.
And if we do see a problem, we'll let you know. But, okay, thank you.
so that was just one of the.
That was that
That was
one
the
license.
license.
That was one license,
I don't know if you wanna take
Athlete
each
Fitness.
individually or-
Thank you for coming.
So is there a motion to approve, is there any specific discussion on any of the other licenses or contracts? Is there a motion to approve the lease agreement with United Airlines, the license agreement with Sales Seafood, the contract with Jacobs Engineering Group, the contract with Airport Media Solutions, contract with Stanley Access Technologies, the contract with Rectrix Aviation, and the contracts with the State of New Hampshire Division of Fire Standards and Training?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
How do you vote, Mr. Buscarin?
Aye.
Mrs.
Aye.
Topham? Mr. Gasparo?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. I think, though, that this brings up, I mean, even with caterers and weddings and all that kind of thing, it brings up the question of whether we need to have some kind of policy out there up front saying, because if somebody is running a 2 o'clock wedding out at Nobody or Beach, it's just as disruptive as it is
Well, and,
with these,
yeah,
and probably more in a way.
as I think about it too, we don't want a fitness class in the middle of a wedding.
Yeah.
We want coordination efforts, and so
Yeah.
we'll work on something there.
Okay.
Yeah, because as a caterer who did cater on the beach, you need an hour or two before
Set
the
up,
event.
yeah.
So it's not like,
Yeah.
weddings at 2, you're there probably at 10 o'clock setting up,
Right.
so, and then breaking down afterwards.
Exactly.
So,
All right. Very good.
I got a question. What rights does the airport have to give a license to somebody to give surfing lessons on the beach? I mean, do we own the beach?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay,
quick
that's a
answer.
good answer.
Excuse me. Okay, moving right along. Is there public comment at this time? Hearing none. Pending matters, formally use defense site status?
We're continually waiting again for the Army Corps to publish their final findings on the Bunker Road area. We've been told a number of times it would be due out shortly, and so we're anticipating it any minute.
Government at its finest.
Same thing with the general fund repayment?
Well, the general fund, again, I had a conversation with the compliance manager at FAA, and 2 weeks ago, he had indicated he would have something back to me in writing. I haven't heard from him, so I wrote to him yesterday and have not heard a response. But I also want to, Jamie brought to my attention something I think the commission either needs to be aware of or approve or whatever, but you may recall there was some concern about at the end of the fiscal year, the transfer of the money and approving it. The budget was $235,000 something each year. And this year, if we deducted in-kind services, it would be down to about $76,000. So we're still awaiting the approval of the agreement, but that's what we've been working in good faith with. So I don't know if,
So, and the money is sort of being held in escrow, right, when it's paid over?
yeah.
Okay.
But
So-
do we put a vote out to pay it? I don't think.
I don't
we did
recall
last
what the
year.
commission decided because we don't have a formal agreement.
But it's in the budget, right?
Yes.
Yes, but so if I go to Brian on tomorrow and, have this money, transferred.
Transfer.
Well, is he going to ask for the full amount, or is he going to ask for the net amount?
No, I'm gonna tell him that he's gonna take the,
Love it.
and I'll send him all the support if he needs it, for how we kept track of the in-kind services. And let him know that, the commission has been,
Can you hear that, Mr. Buscarin?
I did not.
Mrs. Sansbury was telling us that she proposes, well, first of all, under the agreement with the offset of in-kind services, instead of being $235,000 this year, the payment would be about $76,000, is that correct? And she proposes going to the town finance director and telling him that this is what he's entitled to, and we are going to pay it over, and it will be held in the informal escrow arrangement that the prior money we paid over under the same deal is held. And presumably, if you do this, Mrs. Sansbury, you will get him to give us a release for the payment in the full amount of $235.
yes, because I have a separate tracking sheet that will keep this, so that full
But it-
amount is coming off of what we owe.
But we need to get them to sign off on that, I would
That's-
think.
Yeah, that's part of the agreement
Yeah.
too, because we've established this process with the
Right,
Excel
okay.
spreadsheet, and they initial it
Good.
every time and everything. So
All right, would you like a vote?
I think that'd be helpful. Yeah.
Do you have an exact amount?
It's 76,054,08.
76,054,08.
I'll make a motion to repay,
How
to
about,
authorize deposit into the escrow account of
054,08,
5458
08.
08, subject to the process established by the manager for recognizing receipt of the funds.
And the general fund
process.
repayment, yeah.
Service value.
Yeah. For-
Second.
that- Further discussion? All those in favor, no, sorry, Mr. Buscarin, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mrs. Topham?
Aye.
Mr. Gasparo?
Aye.
The chair votes aye. All right. What do you have to report on Hangar 1?
Hangar 1, the appraisal came in at $2.10 a square foot, and the lease has been adjusted accordingly. And later on, I'll be discussing, there's another document that needs to be approved by the commission for the Hangar 1.
Why don't we lump those things together and do it right now as part of the, but go ahead.
The document that is needed is the recognition, non-disturbance, and attornment agreement that will be between ourselves, Brookfield Asset, and FedEx. Our attorney has reviewed this, made some changes, and Brookfield has accepted the changes. So we needed a vote to get that approved.
Has Mr. Buscarin seen the revised one?
I don't believe so.
No.
I apologize, Janine wasn't here, I didn't
Yeah.
get it out, so.
Tom, Mr. Rafter's acting with one hand tied behind his back at the moment. But you're familiar with this type of document, and you saw the prior one, right, Mr. Buscarin?
Yes. Yes.
There's a similar type document that is for the lender, and that's between Brookfield and the lender.
Well, I presume they need this for the lender.
Yes.
This is part of what they.
Yes, but the attorney from Anderson and Krieger identified we need to get approval of this, but she's going to withhold delivering it until some other things that she gets are signed off as an amendment, I think, to the lease or something.
Okay. All right. Are there any questions or comments?
I would make a motion to endorse, approve the recognition, non-disturbance, and attornment agreement not to be released until it meets the satisfaction of
Council.
the manager and council.
Second?
This agreement is between Federal Express Corporation and the Nantucket Memorial Airport Commission and Brookfield Asset Bridgetown LLC. Any further discussion? How do you vote, Mr. Buscarin?
Aye.
Ms. Topham? Mr. Gasparo?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. All right. Advertising rates.
Air service?
Did I, as I say,
Oh, I'm sorry. Air service update, right.
I attended the Jumpstart meeting last week in Providence. We had 8 meetings with airlines, 5 incumbent and 3 new. One of the airlines, which was one of our first meetings, Republic Airways, they actually fly for American, Delta, and United. So they don't actually determine where the airplanes go, what the routes are, but they know where the equipment's allocated. So we got some very good intelligence information that set us up for our other meetings with the other carriers. I would say there's 3 areas of focus that we discussed with a number of them. For the seasonal carriers, we were working on trying to get them to expand the shoulder season. We identified the traffic that we see in September and October. Had some favorable results, I believe, from United. They said they would go back and look at it and consider weekend service in through September and October. Delta had indicated that the corporate philosophy or thought process is that the season ends August 15th. The young lady we met with is from New England. She gets it. She understands. She saw the numbers that we provided, that JetBlue does and how successful they are. She also pulled up our future numbers for this summer, or the future bookings, and was extremely impressed that there's double-digit growth in that. So she's going to take it back to headquarters and see if they can look at extending the shoulder season as well. American, we discussed potential Philadelphia service, and again, trying to extend the shoulder season, but not as receptive as some of the others. The second area was looking at service between Nantucket and Providence. As you may know, Providence has announced recently a lot of additional air service, and on top of what they already have with Southwest and the other majors. They have one non-sterile gate available. We are in discussions with Island Air before they shut down for that. There are 2 carriers that are interested possibly in providing those routes, and we spoke with the Providence people as well as the airlines and trying to broker the meetings between them. The one individual from Southern Airways was a former economic development individual from Rhode Island, so he really understood it. and they have two focus cities, currently one in Baltimore and one in Pittsburgh, and they're looking for a third in New England. It may be New Haven. But he was very interested in the potential for a Nantucket-Providence route, and as well as some other operators that we're putting in touch with the Providence people. The third area that we focused on was the less than daily service on the off-season from Hyannis to a major hub. It was a very interesting concept. A number of them were intrigued by it. I would say that JetBlue expressed probably the most interest and asked a lot of good questions, looking at details of actually timing a flight, when it would work, when it wouldn't, some of the feeds and that type of thing. So we're going to be getting back to them with some information. Another discussion point that we had, though, was with Cape Air. We believe that they're looking at the viability possibly of utilizing an ATR aircraft in our market, which is a larger airplane. It would essentially, one of those replaces about 5 402s. I believe it's about a 45-seat aircraft. So they're checking to see. As you may know, there's a big problem in the airline industry is the pilot shortage, and one of the ways that the major carriers have adjusted to this is by upgauging their airplanes, going to bigger airplanes. So by going to a big airplane, you can carry as many or more people with the same pilot resources. So our consultant has actually prepared some analysis and done some work on what that may look like and the pros and the cons. So we're going to follow up with Cape Air as well as others on that one. And just an update, as you may know, there's construction in Boston, Kennedy, and Hyannis on their runways. So it could be a very tricky summer. We held a meeting with JetBlue and Air Traffic Control to discuss contingency plans should there be prolonged delays, and we're looking at our physical assets of possibly utilizing a fifth position on our commercial ramp, as well as the customer service issues and how we would handle the customers, and working with both JetBlue and Retrix and the affected parties. So that's the air service update.
Could I ask you a question, please, Mr. Archu, maybe? Do we have anybody now going to Providence from Nantucket?
No, the Cape Air formerly went to Providence. They
I know
pulled
that,
out of the
yeah.
Providence market altogether.
But nobody goes now?
No.
I know somebody had asked me. And the other thing is, on the larger planes, is it going to cost more dollars for their tickets, or what dollars?
That's going to be up to the airline, but I think it provides them possibly an opportunity to have a more variable rate structure. In a 9-seat airplane, to do a variable rate structure, it's very difficult because it's almost per seat. Whereas if you look at it, let's say a 50-seat airplane, you might be doing it in groups of 5 or 10 and still hopefully be able to draw a profit. So we believe one of the benefits to it is that it could become a little more attractive and gain back some of the contractor shuttle and some of the folks that are taking the ferry.
That would be great.
So that's what we believe.
Did we lose
Again,
you, Mr. Buscarin? All right, well, I'll leave it on in case he comes back.
So we think that that's a benefit, but again, it depends on, I think, the airline structure. As I was saying earlier, in looking at the Cape Air structure online, although they fly from Boston to, let's say, Bar Harbor, you can't necessarily book a flight on their website from Nantucket through Boston to Bar Harbor, so it's not necessarily structured as a network.
I see.
So that may become a challenge for them, depending upon how it fits into their system or their network. Others, you may have abilities there to do that. So while we think it may be a benefit, it may be a benefit for one airline, but not another.
I guess I thought or hoped that JetBlue was flying to Providence for the people that want to get to Providence, but
Well,
that's too much to ask.
it's a big airplane. It's
Yeah.
a heavy lift, especially in the off-season. But
Yeah.
I think the benefit for Providence is, again, if we could go non-sterile out of here, you just get on the airplane, fly to Providence, go in. If you're familiar with it, they have a ground gate there. Baggage claim right up top of the escalators. It's a single terminal operation. And if you're not aware, just recently, Allegiant announced starting service from Providence to, I believe it was Cincinnati or Cleveland, as well as Punta Gorda and St. Petersburg, Florida. Frontier announced Denver and Orlando service, and Norwegian is flying to 5 international destinations.
Hello.
As well as the existing service.
Hello, Dan, back with you.
Good, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. After.
So that's the update on air service.
All right, sounds promising. We'll keep our fingers crossed.
I must say that the airlines, as I relate to them, I said, we are a leisure tourist destination, but we are not low yield. And when they look at their numbers, they really get that, and they see the strength of our market, so.
All right, thank you. Revised advertising rates.
Yes, I have a handout for the updated rates. What was in your packet, the only difference is that we added a shorter term period for some of these because of the fact that the system, we got a late start this year, and some folks are not necessarily looking for the full year. So to get the program started, we looked at, I think we have a 2-month rate there that we added. And Mr. Mackey said that the way to do this was to go out and develop these based because it's a new program, and then ask the commission to ratify the rates. So that's what we're asking for.
Mr. Buscarin, for your benefit, the handout that Mr. Rafter gave out tonight is the same, except there is a column on the right with a short-term monthly rate that for the full terminal package is $750. And then for the literature racks below, there's a annual rate for in the summer arrival area of $270 for a small single rack, $300 for a medium single rack, and $330 for a large single rack. Those are the only changes from what you've seen.
And just as an
Good,
update.
thank you.
We currently have contracts signed, and I would guesstimate it's probably in about the $15,000 range that we have existing, and there's more coming in, so.
Do you think the brochure rack is used for the whole full year? I see we have a 6 months and a annual rate.
There are some that, yeah, have it year-round.
No, we don't have a 6 months rate for the brochure racks.
Well, what am I looking at here? Individual case, something on the bottom thing?
That's in the summer arrivals area.
Yeah, that's what I was
That's,
asking.
yeah, it's a brochure rack in the,
Okay, so that's just for the summer arrival, and the
Yes,
other
right.
annual rate is for wherever it is elsewhere.
right,
That's
in
for
the other
the
baggage
arrivals.
claim, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Where are the racks and so forth located for the summer arrivals now? Are they still in that alcove outside the door or out?
No, if you're coming from the ramp, they're immediately to your right. So they're up against that wall. And the other thing we're working to do is standardize the racks so that they all look and, seem like the same color, same style, wood and everything else. So that's part of the program that we're working on.
All right. Any questions? Comments? You're looking for a vote
Yeah,
to...
we need a vote to ratify the rates for the advertising.
All right. Is there a motion
I'll make that motion.
to ratify the advertising rates as set
rates, yes.
for 2017?
Yes.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any further comment? How do you vote, Mr. Buscarin?
I vote aye.
Ms. Topham?
Aye.
Mr. Gasparo?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. Thank you. And we move on to volume fuel discount program.
Yes, I just want to make the commission aware that we are considering a pilot program for a volume fuel discount for the high-end users of our products. But what we're doing is Jamie and Noah are working on putting together the criteria and the metric by which it would be measured to ensure that it is a working program and it's not detracting from our revenue stream. So we believe there's opportunities there, not only through direct billing, but possibly through some volume discounts that may increase our sales and overall volume as well of gallons. But before we do that, we want to make sure we have something that measures it, and we also want to have a clause in there that we have the ability to pull the plug if we see it's not working in our favor.
All right. Thank you. Any comments on that? Non-union fiscal year 18 cost of living adjustment discussion and action, right? Maybe.
What?
And action, maybe.
Yeah.
No, we did that.
No, we already did that
Part
earlier.
of the other one.
Okay.
We did it when we were talking about Hangar 1 up top.
I believe the commission at the last meeting, the chairman asked me to come back with a recommendation, and if I may, Dan, if you'd like, I'll put forward a recommendation.
Please.
I would recommend it for 1 year, 2% cost of living for non-union members.
Effective July 1.
Yes.
How does this fit into, or maybe you'd prefer not to say at this point, but how does this fit into the union discussions? How does it fit into what's being considered by the town with respect to the health plan? The impact of that on the non-union employees would be the same as it would be on the union
yes.
employees. Yeah.
I think it's right in line with what, I don't think anything's been agreed to yet on the union contracts, but I would say it's right in line with about where they're going to be.
Okay. Comments, questions? Your motion?
Go ahead, Jennifer.
I'll make a motion to approve 2% non-union fiscal 18
Cost.
COLA.
Cost of living adjustment. Is there a
And
second?
I'll second.
Any further discussion or comment? Mr. Buscarin, how do you vote?
Aye.
Ms. Topham?
Aye.
Mr. Gasparo? And the chair votes aye. The manager's report.
Under the projects, as I mentioned before, our traffic control tower is done. We're pretty sure we closed that out, or we've signed the final invoice. The vault replacement, as you may recall, there was an effort, or an issue there with regard to, we weren't sure exactly what the issue was. Jacobs did some preliminary testing that indicated it looked like it was the regulator system, which was an ADB product. To verify that, they called in a third party to do some more in-depth testing. That test report is due out by the end of this week, and it still appears that it looks like the regulators may not be working properly. My understanding is that they're a new generation type regulator, a new model that came out. Cobo, who is a contractor, was present during the most recent testing. So we're going to wait and see what happens with that. I've already engaged conversation with the FAA about, what if this comes to an issue of they can't agree to who's responsible for what. We would have to get the FAA involved in making the final decision on that. The interactive employee training system is in place and working very well. Working to finalize comments on the Part 139 modules. There's a snow removal module that's going to be somewhat generic because it's very difficult to do customized footage when you don't know when the storm's coming, and when the storm does get here, it's tough for people to get here. So we're going to kind of work with a generic program on that. The flight information display system in PA, according to Jacob's latest report, the contractor is supposed to have a price quote from Cobo this week, and then it should move very quickly to completion. They don't believe there's a lot of work left. As you may recall, they had a very difficult time obtaining prices from various electricians. The snow removal equipment, we have not heard back from the manufacturer.
I'm not sure the commission is aware that council wrote them.
Our attorney has written a letter to council for Kodiak.
It was put in there.
It's in the
This was,
packet,
it was actually discussed in executive session, so I want to try to keep the rest of that if we
Right.
can. The crack sealing project was completed by the state. Again, another huge benefit they come over and do. It's a great job, and we're very thankful for that. The security cameras are installed. We're awaiting remote access. We have a couple of points in operations and security where they can view the cameras, but we're supposed to be gaining remote access for that. Our ramp Phase 3 bids came in, as you may remember. They came in at $2,495,000, and we had only budgeted $2.2 million for the entire project, including design and construction management. In consultation with FAA, Jacobs went through the review, and FAA recommended that we rebid the project. That is back out on the street. There's a pre-bid meeting scheduled for June 21st, and the bids are due in on June 28th. and initial indications are that there may be as many as 4 bidders for that project. The geometry issue has been assigned to McFarland and Johnson. We're waiting for a schedule of work on that, and working closely with the control tower. They sent me some documentation that may be a major benefit to that project as well. On the Nobody Farm Road development, the architect is preparing drawings and floor plans, and we're awaiting a site plan. He's coordinating with the surveyor on an overall site plan for that. The next steps there would be getting FAA approval and working with the town consultant to determine, run the numbers and see if it's viable from a developer's perspective. The town also received their bids for the Tacoma Way project, and they're under review currently. On the RFP, RFQ side of the house, the airport gas station RFP is out. It has been extended until June 23rd. An addendum was issued to clarify the financial return that we anticipate. As you may recall, we had the terminal concession retail out. There were no bids on that, but we're looking at considering a short-term, putting an RFP out for a short-term period, because there are folks that did express interest after the bid was closed, and considering possibly adding it to the restaurant space when that goes out next year. It may make the entire thing a little more appealing. We're going to be discussing that with the current operator and some others. So we'll probably reissue that and put it out for a short term. Let's see, the solar RFP proposals, we've received them. They're currently under review. There's a handout of a letter that was sent to the Senator Sear requesting support of an extension that would make that project viable. Let's see, as you already awarded the passenger boarding ramp.
Excuse me, Mr. Rafter, on the letter, is the town sent a similar letter?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, we worked, NOAA worked very closely with them to have compatible letters.
Mm-hmm.
And the other project that we had taken bids on was the apron floodlights. They came in over budget, so we're reviewing and checking to see if we can possibly reduce the quantity to bring it into our financial situation. So, on the operations side of the house, we had a couple of fuel audits performed, and in your packet at the very end there's a letter. It's a very glowing letter from JetBlue thanking our team for excellent work, and I think we will probably receive a similar one from NetJets, who performed a surprise audit on June 1st. Preston and Johnny and the whole gang did a great job. Excellent work on that. We held a meeting with, as I mentioned earlier, JetBlue, Retrix, and the Control Tower regarding irregular operations and tarmac delay. We're working on a program for that. Various departments, various people on the...
God bless you.
Bless you.
Our staff is working with a number of different departments on 4th of July plans, very similar to last year, putting up some of the snow fence, the signs. We're going to be putting in the porta potties and the dumpsters. So there was a planning meeting on that, and I believe the installation will begin on the 29th. Just a heads up on some financial results. Wine Festival and Memorial Day were both very favorable. Wine Festival sales were up 16% over last year, the best since we've been keeping records, and Memorial Day was up 9% over last year, again, the best on record to date. Another note, the control tower staff won an award from the FAA for their teamwork and effort of working together and cooperatively on handling the transition to and from the mobile tower and the rehabilitation of the tower. The administrator was supposed to come down and give them the award, but the assistant administrator came in, so it's very favorable. A couple of dates to remember. Again, the triennial exercise is September 13th. The Flying Association Aviation Camp is June 26th through the 30th. And one other note, we gave a tour to, Johnny and I gave a tour to the new DPW director and his deputy, and looking to work very closely with them on whatever we can. And That's it. Before I go on to statistics, any questions?
Anything,
I have a comment, which is probably very silly, but I know Mass Save was coming to homes. Are they interested in watching our lighting and stuff like that? I wonder or not.
I would turn to Noah on that. Are the lighting needs, you mean?
They came in and replaced all my lights. They came in and did insulation in my house for me paying like a third of the price.
We did a similar program, if you remember,
But I
about
didn't know
3
if
years
they'd do it
ago.
for the field, if they were interested in all the lights you were talking about.
We've done it in all the hangars. I don't know about floodlighting. I'm not sure.
Noah Carver, Environmental Coordinator. I'm aware that Mass Save has a commercial program parallel to the residential, but as Tom mentioned, we have taken a lot of the low-hanging fruit away from them, and I believe, looking back at the carbon neutral project, that the floodlighting is up to date or recent enough that there isn't a sort of commensurate savings that pays for a complete rehab or replacement.
Yeah, these were LED lights anyway. The big change for us was going to be fiberglass poles from the steel, because the steel was rusting out and rotting, so.
Yes, rust in Nantucket is not good.
all right, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
And you have a request to travel?
No, he's got
Oh, I
the
have
statistics first.
and then-
Oh, so sorry,
Yeah.
I'm jumping.
So in the April statistics, the operations are down 5.04% for the month and just slightly down for the year, so we're starting to see a leveling off on that. The emplanements were actually up 5.76% for the month, still down 10.0 for the year, but again, what we're starting to see is the impact of Retrix and some of the recovery there. You can see here with some of the numbers for the airlines were Cape Air up 2% in emplanements. Trade winds up 202, a little bit of an anomaly, but significant increase from 50 to 151 emplanements. And Retrix carried 515 passengers for the month. On the Boston market, Cape Air, you see an increase of 6%. In New Bedford, it's down 5%. And then Hyannis, you have Cape Air down significantly at 88%. But again, 88%, when you look at the number of emplanements, it's, from 56 to 7. And Nantucket Air down 35%. And again, Retrix carrying the 515 on 112 flights with a 51% load factor.
Retrix has taken more than just what Cape Air has lost, right? If I read this correctly?
Yeah, it does appear that way.
Significant, really significant.
So it's, again, what we're starting to see is a little bit of a climb back in entitlements, and it's driven by the Hyannis service. Because again, this is not any of the summer just yet, so. Also, the Vineyard traffic is up 8%, so that's a good sign.
I noticed that the Highline is offering a special round-trip rate to residents between inter-islands.
The islands, yes. And the timing is, I think, decent, where you can get basically a decent.
2 to 3 boats a day.
Yes.
2 and then 3
You can get
starting.
over and spend most of the day and come
Right.
back, too.
Is it just same-day travel? Just because
I
I've
don't
got to go
believe
to a
so.
funeral or memorial
I'm
service.
not sure.
Okay.
About that. I could look it up. When we're
Well,
done, I'll
I
look
can-
it up and let
well,
you know.
I can look it up also,
No,
thank you.
they sent out an email on the subject.
Okay, thank you.
The fuel sales are very positive. For April, they're up 71.24%, and year-to-date up 2.13. And then for May, they're also up slightly, I believe it was, what's the next slide? Yeah, up 4% for May. So they're trending in the right direction. And Avgas is also up 21% for April and almost 10.9 for May. So that's a good sign. Freight is also up 7.82% over last April. Still down year-to-date 23%. And noise complaints, we received 1 versus 0 last year. Oh, I forgot, this is a new slide. Can you back to that a minute? Oh. This shows where the freight, who's up and who's down. And you can see that the Wiggins, FedEx and UPS is up. UPS up significantly. Cape Air's down. The mail and the postal service is up about 8%.
Is Rector sharing freight?
Not right now. They are working on a program. You may have seen
Because they have their truck out
they
there.
bought a van, they wrapped it, and that's kind of like the preliminary thing. They also bought a separate airplane for freight. I think it's a 402 that they're proposing to start within the next, I believe, 2 months.
And then will they do it from the new hangar that's going to be Allied, is it, that's going to handle the,
Their proposal is actually to do it more like FedEx used to and have the van go right to the airplane and come out. We're working on a minimum standards that would allow certain types of operations so that the larger freight would have to go through a building that has the facility size. We want to get the larger freight out of the terminal building. That's the objective. And that's my report for statistics.
Any questions or comments?
I had a comment, and I forgot what it was, what you were talking about back there, but I guess you answered it actually about about the freight, why that had changed, but then you showed us the slide. So, or is it more people, are we getting more records than what we were doing, and people being?
It's still a challenge with the records. It's self-reporting, and to perform an audit is very difficult. That's why we're trying to write into some of the newer agreements some heavier reporting requirements.
Right.
I think that it will be a major benefit to have FedEx on the field. It will eliminate one step in their process, so it'll save them some time and money and give us a little more control, I think. Any other questions on statistics?
No, thank you.
Okay. The personnel side of the house, our seasonal employees, we've had some fits and starts as usual, but we're doing very well. As I said, they tapped into a source from Puerto Rico where we have a number of employees that are familiar with aviation, have worked in the airport down there, didn't require a lot of training, and most likely would be able to stay through September and possibly even in October, so that's good. We had a resignation to our administrative assistant. May resigned, so we're going to be looking to fill that position shortly. And the only other item I have is a request for travel for the National Airports Conference in October. Yes, it's in Las Vegas. Trust me, I really don't.
I vote no.
I wish I didn't have to go, but I'm the vice chair of the conference.
Yeah, well, tell them where it is next year, Mr. Rafter.
Next year, it's in Anchorage, Alaska.
Oh, my good night shirt.
So,
Wow.
Is there a motion to approve Mr.
I will make that
Rafter's
motion
travel
to
request?
approve Mr. Rafter's travel on October 1st to the 3rd, to Las Vegas.
Is there a second?
And I'll send him some chips.
been there, done that, don't do that.
I don't believe in you.
How do you vote, Mr. Buscarin?
A reluctant aye.
A unanimous or whatever.
Ms. Topham?
Yes.
Mr. Gasparo, the chair votes aye. Safe travels.
Enthusiastic.
Thank you.
Commissioners' comments. Mr. Buscarin, do you have any comments?
No, it's always difficult and obtuse to attend these meetings on the phone, but nevertheless, it's certainly better than not attending, and I've learned a lot, and I appreciate Mr. Rafter's good report.
Good, thank you. Mrs. Topham?
No, I've asked all my questions and comments.
Mr. Gasparo?
I had one question just for the manager. I was wondering about, we'd asked it last time about the Tailwind Aviation, the new operator. Are they set up and?
Is that the Tradewind or Tailwind?
No, it's Tailwind.
Tailwind, that's right.
Seaplane operation.
Seaplane, yeah. Tradewind's the other one.
They initially were promoting a scheduled service, and that falls under a separate category in our rates. We finally, I believe, I shouldn't say we, I should say NOAA, educated them to what the clear definition and interpretation of scheduled service is, and they have modified to go to simply an on-demand charter operation. So they will be paying the appropriate fees, but they will not be the scheduled service that they're promoting. So yes, and my understanding is they returned the agreement, and I believe they submitted their fees already.
So I guess what's the difference between, I'm not anti, I'm just trying to understand that.
The difference is this, in the FAA, actually, it's a DOT attorney, Mr. Conti, came out with this explanation. The FAA determines scheduled service to mean, well, let me back up a minute. Part 135 on-demand charters can perform scheduled service if they meet certain criteria. It's less than 5 scheduled flights per week. In limited-size aircraft, you can't be turboprop or jet, certain weight restrictions, and so on and so forth. The definition of scheduled by FAA is there's 3 elements that the passenger must make the final decision on. The actual point of origin, the actual point of destination, and the departure time. So that some operators can say, all right, I'm leaving from Southern California to New York, and not necessarily, that could be Teterboro, Westchester, New York, Kennedy, LaGuardia. That doesn't constitute specific. If the operator makes any one of I shouldn't say, if the customer makes a decision on any one of those, that's considered a charter. If the operator determines those 3 elements, it's considered a schedule. So they were promoting a defined scheduled service. They're no longer going to be doing that. It's going to be an on-demand type operation.
So I just went on the website before I came to the meeting, out of curiosity, and and I was able to click on, for this weekend, a flight from Friday from New York to Nantucket, and then Sunday going back, and everything seemed like it was lining up.
Okay.
I didn't click continue because it was $1,850
Round trip?
round trip. It was 900 something. So I'm not trying, I'm just letting you know.
We will look into it
that
again. and
I'm not again, I just want to be sure if they're going to do it that way,
It's
not a loophole and that we're getting the right fees.
we're going after them continuously.
Just wanted you-
Yep,
I'm glad to hear that.
it's that time of year.
Yep.
All right, anything else, Mr. Gasparo?
No.
I have a couple of things. First of all, the process we have been going through to clear title to the property to the southeast of the south end of the runway, main runway, which is known as the Thompson House property. That process has been complete, and at long last, and I will be reviewing executive session minutes to see whether they are appropriate for release, but anything related to that probably is, and have those for the next meeting. And the other thing is that I am going to write a letter to the land bank, to the chair of the land bank, thanking him and his colleagues and the staff of the land bank for their cooperation in getting this done. Secondly, Mr. Rafter and I have a meeting scheduled with Dan Wolf, the president or chair of Cape Air, on Thursday over in Hyannis about service issues. They've reached a new crescendo, shall we say. And we are at least going to make an effort to impress upon him the severity of the situation. I mean, you've seen what's happened to their numbers, and whether that relates to the frequency of service that they're providing, or whether it relates to their own, the reputation that they've developed is something we can't determine, of course, but I think it's important that they hear it.
Well, and we have a number of records from social media where their reputation's deteriorated significantly. So.
I mean, there was an event that happened 2 weeks ago, which was amazing. That's all I can say.
I had hoped after our meeting, when we had the tenant meeting or whatever it was in January, I guess it was, that things were going to change, because the people that were there were very encouraging and felt like they were listening to us. But again, I feel that they have not listened to us.
And I apologize, I forgot Commissioner Topham was in that meeting. And we did deliver, went through a whole agenda of items, so.
All right, and the third, and if anything significant comes out of that meeting, we'll get you an email summary of what happened.
Thank you.
the final thing I have, and I have a test for Mrs. Topham. Mr. Rafter and the staff have very kindly created something that I think you will find useful, which talks about where we get air service from and to, and when, front and back. This is a handout that they're going to make available around town. But there is a typo in it, Mrs. Topham.
And you want me to look for it?
I want you to look for it.
Oh, my goodness gracious.
We're not
How
going
long do I have to look?
to, 30 seconds.
Must be a big one then.
That's all I have. Is there public comment at this time? Hearing none, I will entertain a motion to go into executive session to review the minutes enumerated in the agenda, under Clause 3 of General Law, Chapter 38, 21A, to discuss strategy with respect to collective bargaining. The chair has determined that an open session may have a detrimental effect on the bargaining position of the airport, and under Clause 3, to discuss strategy with respect to pending litigation related to the SRE snowblower. The chair has determined that open session may have a detrimental effect on the litigation position of the airport.
That is my motion not to return to open session.
Thank you.
Second?
Mr. Buscarin, how do you vote?
Aye.
Ms. Topham?
Aye.
Mr. Gasparo?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. Thank you, Tony. We've got a bunch of papers to sign here. Do you want to stay on the line, or do you want to call back in about